Leader of the Lib Dem, Sir Ed Davey, is with us now. Do you agree with Sir Keir Starmer there, who says that the Prime Minister was treating people as mugs?
I do. I think the Prime Minister has knowingly lied to Parliament time and time again, and he did break the rules. Very clear from Sue Gray's report, which I thought was extremely a damning indictment of the Prime Minister, that there were wrongdoings going on in Number 10. And, you know, I think it's now the Conservative MPs' job to act. They have the power. They can write the letters to Sir Graham Brady and get a vote of no confidence in the Prime Minister. I think it's their patriotic duty, frankly. Our country's got huge problems: energy bills, heating bills, cost of living crisis, the problems in the Ukraine, which we know about, the pandemic still. We have a Prime Minister who can't address those because he's got this huge cloud over his head and it's distracting him. So I think Conservative MPs, recognising that, must get rid of him.
But it's up to them, and if they don't, you're just shouting in the wind.
Well, I don't think that's the case. I think that the British people are registering their views. We've seen an opinion poll last night saying nearly two-thirds think he should resign. And if Conservative MPs won't take action, what about Conservative councillors? I'd like to see Conservative councillors and Conservative councillor candidates registering the voters' disapproval by resigning from the Conservative Party, not standing at the local elections. Because if they don't, voters will say to them, well, what did you do? Just as they'll say that to Conservative MPs. So this is a crisis in the Conservative Party now. They're allowing a man who we know is a lawbreaker, we know is dishonest, to continue in this job when we have huge problems in our country. So that's why it's their patriotic duty of Tory MPs to act.
So you're calling on grassroots Conservatives to remove the Prime Minister if the backbenchers don't want to?
Well, they haven't the power to remove him.
Well, they do by contacting their MPs.
They all need to, I think, register their dissatisfaction. I've seen a number of programmes on Sky, on other channels, where you've interviewed Conservative Party members who don't look happy at all. The opinion poll last night showed that nearly half of Conservative voters want the Prime Minister to resign. This is unprecedented territory. And so, you know, I think if they don't, right, if he stays, he will be investigated by the police. There'll be an interview. He'll have legal advice.
We don't know that.
Well, if there's a police investigation, I think it's quite likely that he will be interviewed.
He said he didn't know there were parties. He may not be interviewed. He may have a couple of emails that he needs to answer while he goes about the business of power.
I think that's highly unlikely. I think the Met Police will have to interview him, and I think he'll have to take legal advice. So I've written to the Treasury Solicitor today, who governs these matters, and I've said I don't believe the taxpayers should be paying the Prime Minister's legal bills. And I think he should pay personally. There was a personal parties, including one in his own flat, that he'd be investigated for. It's not right for the taxpayer to pick up the Prime Minister's legal bills.
It is, of course, up to the police where they go next, and we're just going to have to wait for their report. You've been less than complimentary about the police so far.
Yeah, I wrote to Cressida Dick, the Met Police Commissioner, a few weeks ago, and I asked her if she would investigate, and she chose not to. The Met Police line back then was that they weren't going to investigate retrospective offences. They then changed that position and said they might investigate, but they'd wait for the Sue Gray report. Then they changed their mind again and said they would investigate, but Sue Gray's report could be published. And then they changed their mind for a fourth time and said they're going to investigate, but Sue Gray couldn't publish her report in full. And when you see the Met Commissioner, New Scotland Yard, changing their mind 4 times, it does not look good. Now, it's either incompetence, and that's probably what this real story is, or it's really, really disturbing.
In what way?
Well, there's a perception of some sort of stitch-up. And, you know, rank-and-file police officers, who I completely support, they put their lives on the line for the safety of us every day. They need to ensure that the trust and confidence of the public is in them. We police by community consent, by public consent. And if the Met Commission, if the High Command is undermining that by a perception that they're not treating everyone the same, then that's very damaging for police. It's damaging for our democracy. So I stand by what I said. I really hope the Met can explain themselves far more. If it has been incompetence, if they kept changing their mind, please explain it to us.
Do you think it was a stitch-up?
I don't know. I don't have the evidence. What I'm saying is that the perception of a stitch-up is damaging. and they have to clear it up. So I would have said that the Sue Gray report should be published in full, and if it can't be, I want a detailed explanation from that police. We got some explanation yesterday, to be fair to New Scotland Yard, rather late in the day, but I don't think it was as substantive as it needs to be. I think people want this report published in full. The Prime Minister initially yesterday said he was going to not publish it in full. He was very, very ambiguous about that. Eventually, he was forced to say he would publish it in full, and I hope the Met Police will back that up.
Crime in London is high. Crime across the country, despite what the Prime Minister said. He said it was a 14% cut. It's actually a 14% increase, according to the Shadow Home Secretary. The police are very busy doing other stuff. Should they really be worried about peanuts and crisps and warm white wine in the garden of Number 10?
It's not about the peanuts and crisps. It's about making sure the rules apply equally to everybody. The police were issuing thousands of notices to people across the country, including in London, and lots of people got fined, and lots of people were told off. And they're looking at the Prime Minister and saying, OK, we took our punishment, why can't he? What I think should happen in the police more generally, tackling crime, if that's a concern, it really is, we need more police officers. But actually, if you look at what Boris Johnson promised, he promised there'd be 20,000 extra police officers, but they're behind their schedule. They're not recruiting anywhere near fast enough. And what Liberal Democrats want, we do want a lot more community police in our constituencies and communities across London and across the country. But the Prime Minister and his Conservative government are failing to deliver on their own promises on police.
20,000 police officers to replace the 21,000 that we lost, just to clarify that for our viewers.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
And as far as Ian Blackford is concerned, should he have stormed out yesterday?
Well, I thought it looked a little childish, I have to tell you. I mean, he looked round to his backbenchers when he was putting on that slight pantomime. He was smiling. So serious face to the camera, smiles to his backbenchers. It did look like it was fabricated. So while, I've said to you today that I thought the Prime Minister has lied to Parliament, we have to have rules in Parliament, and the Speaker was right to uphold those rules.
What was the atmosphere like in the House yesterday?
It was quite febrile. I think a real sense on the opposition that the Prime Minister should go. And in the Conservative backbenches, that was really interesting. I was looking at their body language and their facial positions, and they look unhappy. They didn't look like they were hugely in support of the Prime Minister. And while there was a lot of cheering, it was coming from just a few people. So although we hear reports that at this meeting last night, this private meeting, that they were supportive of him, I think many of them are questioning him. And you did hear people like Andrew Mitchell saying he'd lost the confidence.
And Theresa May. She didn't actually say that. She said that, well, we know what she said. But as far as body language is concerned, we've actually got a body language expert on coming up, so it'll be interesting to see what they make of it. But do you have some sympathy with the front benches?
The Conservative front bench? No, because they're sticking by the Prime Minister. It should be.
Isn't that their job?
No, their job is to serve the country. And the national interest is not being served by people who stand by this Prime Minister. He has broken the rules. He's broken the ministerial code. It's pretty clear from Sue Gray's report. I mean, I had expected Sue Gray's report to be much milder, and I thought it might even be a little bit of a whitewash. But even within the restrictions, the severe limitations imposed on her, she made some extremely damning findings. And for cabinet ministers to stand by a Prime Minister who's really been fouled out, I don't think is good enough, particularly when our country faces such crises, and particularly the cost of living crisis. We need someone who's got credibility. The Prime Minister doesn't. He's going to be a joke when he tries to help out in Ukraine and Russia. No one's going to take him seriously there. He needs to go in the national interest. The Tory MPs need to do their patriotic duty.
OK. Ed Davey, it's always a pleasure. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Thank you.